Hello, welcome to Career Magic. So, this is the second one in the series on habits. I hope you've seen the first in this series where I talk about why it is difficult for human beings to develop good habits and to get rid of bad ones, particularly when the change is a little bit difficult for us. Okay, I talked about the dynamics of this change and what the resistances are, and there I discussed the elephant and the rider, the two parts of our brain which have to work together to bring about this change, to inculcate this habit or to get rid of a bad one, and why, and the strengths and weaknesses of the elephant and rider. So, just to summarize, the rider is the rational part of our brain who knows what the right thing to do is, can think long term, is willing to make short term sacrifices, in thought, but suffers from analysis paralysis. On the other hand, the elephant is big and strong, has a lot of energy and motivation when it gets moving, but fundamentally is lazy, looks for instant gratification, emotionally is very emotional, and therefore looks for short term benefits rather than making some sacrifices in order to obtain something long term. So, now today what I want to do is I want to talk about three strategies to align the elephant and the rider, to get them both moving in the direction we desire. So, there are three strategies: one to get the rider moving, one to get the elephant moving, and the third strategy is sort of what facilitates their movement forward, and in many cases it is required. It sort of helps us create the habit. So, let us talk about these three things. Let us talk about first of all the rider. Now, what is the rider's weakness? It is analysis paralysis. So often, have you seen people who want to do something, start investing in the stock market, for example, and then will be endlessly reading about stuff on mutual funds, on stocks, will talk to several people, but really will not move. They will do all kinds of analysis. There are people who want to get into exercise, they will research gyms, they will research online apps, they will try and figure out if they ought to buy a treadmill and so on, but then do not take the first concrete step to move forward. So, analysis paralysis is a huge problem for the rider, and in order to get the rider moving, the key is to script the next concrete step. And this is described in, I think I mentioned the book called Switch by the Heath brothers in the previous episode. And so there they talk about this concept. So they talk about several things, but I'm going to stick to a very, very simple strategy, which is to script the next move for the rider to get the rider out of this analysis paralysis. Now, let me give you an example. If in fact, before I give you an example, let me also talk about the elephant, and then I'll make it clear how you can create a situation where they can both get moving. So we have to script the next concrete next step in order to get the rider out of the analysis paralysis and moving forward. The elephant now. What is the problem with the elephant? The problem with the elephant is that the elephant is lazy, the elephant wants instant gratification, and whenever you talk about something that needs to be done, the elephant is going to look at it as overwhelming and really will not move. So, in order to get the elephant moving, we must shrink the change. We must make it smaller so that emotionally the elephant is not overwhelmed with the degree of the change and what has to be accomplished. Now, let me just give you a couple of examples on how this works. Now, the first example I want to give you is about when I started this YouTube channel. Now, I know many people who want to start YouTube channels or blogs or stuff like that. But what happens is this analysis paralysis. What do I do? What equipment do I need? And so on, holds them back. So what I did was I understood this and I said, you know what, I've got to get moving. So what is the concrete next step for me? For me, the concrete next step is to pick a topic and just record it with whatever equipment is available to me. That is the concrete next step, which I am going to do next week. Now, once that becomes very clear, I just need to pick a topic and record it. Now, for the elephant, what I did for the elephant was that I shrunk the change. The elephant might think, I have to get all this equipment and I have to, figure out what to do, etc. So this is a big thing that needs to be done. So for the elephant, I said, you know what, all you have to do is write down a very brief script. All you have to do is record it, which is 10 to 15 minutes of activity. And it's right here, all the equipment is available, so you don't really have to do much. So I shrunk the change. I did not go for big, perfect solution where I have to do a whole bunch of things. Everything is right there, everything is available. The first couple of moves have been scripted. So the rider is moving. Now the elephant is moving, because now the elephant is a little bit excited because he can see that, yeah, you know what, this is not very difficult, I can get it done. So I was then able to get that first episode out, and then I was able to get the second episode out. And when I got feedback on my episodes, I slowly started taking baby steps towards accumulating other equipment, making the quality of my videos better. So I have an HD webcam now. I have this lapel mic. I also have another condenser mic that I sometimes use. So I have a bunch of stuff and the quality has improved. And now it has become a habit. I do it once a week. So that is one example. Another example, very similar example, was, during the pandemic, I just got into this karaoke singing. I was a bathroom singer since my childhood, and being an introvert, I had never really taken to singing publicly. So I said, okay, let me, pandemic time, I have some time, let me experiment with karaoke singing. So again, the two things. What is the concrete next step? Was call someone and say, okay, how do I get started? And then I discovered there was this free app that I could download and sing. It was very, very straightforward. So the next step was clear. I download this app and I can get going on my smartphone and shrink the change. All I have to do is record one song, pick one song that I really like and record it and see how it goes. And lo and behold, over the last 1.5 years now, I have 75 recorded songs. It has become a habit. So these two things have really helped me, start habits that otherwise might have been very difficult for me. Few years ago, I may have spun my wheels and not made any progress. These are two things. So one is, the first, identify the concrete next step. Very concrete. What can you do? And the second step is shrink the change, make it small enough, make it doable without too much difficulty. So the elephant moves, the rider moves, you start doing that. Now the third thing I want to talk about is something that is an enabler, and it's a really important enabler. Now let me give you an example and explain to you how this works. So it's really about creating an environment to enable this change to roll forward. Many years ago, so I come from a family with heart disease, genetically inclined towards heart disease. So I need to exercise and have good dietary habits in order to. Now, exercising has never been easy for me. I have played sports all my life. I was a cricketer. I used to play badminton. Now I play golf, but golf is really not much of exercise. So around the 2007-2008 time frame, with my wife pushing me, she's a fitness freak, and she would always push me to try and get into an exercise habit. I started I live in Pune, a city in Maharashtra, India. And in Pune, it's a hilly city. In different places, we have these really nice green hills. So you can go hill climbing and get decent exercise. I hated going to the gym, but I could handle this. So I would go once in a while, do this hill climbing, go up 2-3 times. Every time I went, it was really good exercise, but I just wouldn't go often. there was this elephant in the morning would not let me get out of bed. Even though once I was up, it was okay, it was nice emotionally being in that environment and feeling good about getting that exercise, but I just couldn't get out of bed. So what I did one day, what happened was that my daughter, who used to go to a local school, had a school bus. Her bus didn't show up, and my wife asked me to get up and early in the morning, 6:30 a.m. and drop her to school. So I had to get up, and I said, oh okay, since I am getting up anyway, let me go to the hill, or tekdi as we call it here in our language. I got up, I changed into my exercise clothes, wore my shoes, dropped my daughter off to school, which was about 10-12 kilometers away, and then went and did this tekdi. And when I came back home and I was sitting and sipping my cup of tea, I said, what just happened there? I was able to get up because I had to drop my daughter to school, but that also led to me doing my exercise. So I had an idea. I told my wife, let's stop my daughter's Sachi's school bus. I will start dropping her to school. And we did that. So for a few months, we stopped her school bus. I had to get up in the morning to drop her, and I, right after that, would go and do my tekdi. I developed this habit, which even to this day, I do quite regularly. Now, this is a concept that is known as habit stacking. I later on found out, there's a book by a guy called James Clear where he says, the title of the book is Atomic Habits. Really nice book, and some of the concepts described there I have pretty much been using. And habit stacking is about finding a habit, finding something that you do regularly anyway, and stacking another habit on top of it. So in this case, what I did was I created a habit of dropping my daughter to school, which had to be done, and then stacked my exercise on top of it. Now I use this quite a lot in other areas. I have to take medications regularly and supplements. So I have stacked, I have created, and I have an organizer, bought an organizer. I put my medications in there, and I have stacked that habit of taking my medication on top of my meals. So right after breakfast, I take my pills. Right after dinner, I take my pills. I never miss even once. The wife was having trouble with this. I've created a similar system for her, and now I make sure she takes her supplements right after the meals too, in the morning and in the evening. So habit stacking really helps. I have also the two examples I gave you. One of them, the karaoke singing example, I have stacked the habit of weekly karaoke singing over the end of my day on Friday. So when I finish work on Friday, or if I'm working on Saturday, finish my work on Saturday, I do this once a week, right? So I reward myself with that bit of karaoke singing, have a drink with it, do some karaoke singing, record that song, and send it to my friends. So I've stacked that habit on top of this day of work on Friday or Saturday. Really useful. So what you are doing by doing this is, so you've sort of shrunk the change. You have also created the concrete first step, but sometimes that is not enough. You have to create the environment to get the elephant and rider moving, and after that, once it is stacked on top of another habit, you can then get them moving and bring about that change and inculcate that habit. So leave me a comment on how this works out for you, and subscribe to my channel so you get notified about new videos like this that I put out, and wish you the very best with your habits.